he's able to follow. So yeah,
So
overall, he had. Sorry, go ahead.
Did you invite him to this meeting? Because like,
I did, but he said he won't be able to make it.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would love it if he has better ideas for this.
Oh yeah, he told me. I'll even show you what he's talking about, and we'll go from there. But I'll bring up the issues that he brought up one by one, and we can go from there. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's so he's also listed them down in the PR. But I'll quickly start off and talk about what they are. So the first thing about cross namespace sharing, so he's okay with saying it's free for all right now, and I think that's how we should, like the decision we made last week, Ben, where we said we don't do anything specific for cross namespace bucket access. If someone creates a BAR pointing to a bucket, create another namespace, it just goes through. And that free for all stance is okay for alpha. But going forward, like to go to beta or V1, so this issue of sharing resources created in one namespace in another namespace, it's a more general issue.
Just so I understand clearly, what he would like to see is the BAR pointing directly to the B scheme, but have no security around it.
For alpha, yeah.
Okay, because that does affect the design of the BAR object. It needs to have two different pointers that we can distinguish, and
yeah, I mean that's how it's been always, so that hasn't changed.
Right, but with the proposal to like implement some sort of a formalized transfer mechanism, we would have removed one of those pointers.
Yeah, but except the transfer mechanism is not needed here. That's what I'm getting to. So
yeah, I just there's many different ways to do it, and we want to do
no. So I didn't get a chance to. Oh, sorry, Ben, your voice is a little low. Could you? Maybe it's on my side. For some reason I'm not able to hear you very well.
Ben's voice is low. I've got my volume full.
Okay, how is that?
Yeah, better.
Is that better? So, yeah, sorry, my mixer in Linux has been just misbehaving all day. Every meeting I join, I have to mess with it.
I see. Yeah, so he had another proposal for how to do this cross namespace transfer or resource sharing. Have you heard of reference policy?
No.
You have?
No.
Oh, okay. So what it says is it's just about who can refer to resources, or it's kind of RBAC, but it's not really RBAC, but it's something like that, where you can set a reference policy as a separate CRD, and you can say from what namespace can you refer to what resources in other namespaces. So for instance, if you set a reference policy saying that bucket access requests from namespace Bob can refer to buckets in namespace Alice, then bucket access or bucket access requests in namespace Bob can do that. Reference policy is not yet in place, but the current proposal is it goes to an even higher level or lower level of granularity, where you could say namespace or BARs from namespace Bob can refer to specific buckets in namespace Alice, and you can have a separate policy for each of those buckets. So it's not RBAC because it's not about who can do what. It's more like what can be referred to, and that's the current direction it seems like Kubernetes is going to go.
But does that mean that like in your BAR, when you refer to the BR name, you also have a separate BR namespace? You also have to tell the system?
No, what if it's just B? We could do BR actually, yeah. Why not?
I mean, the existing one is the BAR refers to the BR, right? Because you want everything, you don't want to know about the non-namespaced objects.
I was just thinking of it as the B, but yeah, you could stick with the existing approach and say BAR always points to just BR.
Right,
And
but then if Bob wanted to refer to Alice's, he would have to put Alice's
the
namespace
namespace. Yeah,
explicitly in his
yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah. So
So
so what I
I feel like
wanted,
that addresses half the. I'll just say this because I don't want to go too deep down this rat hole unless you want to. Um, the, the whole discussion around like transferring of BRs and BARs, it really is, there's
ownership.
two separate problems that we're addressing. One is the intent to actually share, like where you want multiple users and multiple namespaces to all have references to the same bucket. But then there's another problem we're trying to solve, which is to reassign ownership. Like,
Yeah,
even if you're sharing, you still need to know who owns it. And in principle, you might want to reassign who owns it once it's being shared by more than one person. And
yeah,
so it sounds like Tim's proposal addresses the first half, but not the second half. So we
yeah.
still need an answer.
Right. For the second half, I mean, we still need to talk about it. But I think the first half is a pretty clean approach. But I didn't agree to it or anything because one, I think everyone needs to pitch in. And we all need to agree on it before we go ahead with that. But number two, about this ownership issue, I think we can solve the problem in a simple manner. What I mean is we can keep the invariant of there's only one owner for a bucket, that is the BR to B mapping is 1-to-1. And if the BR goes away, while having the retention policy or deletion policy retained, so the bucket is left orphaned, then we should allow another BAR to bind to it, just like PVC binding.
Yes, that is how it works with PVC binding.
Mhm. There is a race condition there. If two people are trying to, sign to it, you don't know which one's going to win. Um, but that's, in practice that should be okay. Don't
Okay,
you?
yeah, I mean, we can make that the official plan.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else? Any thoughts?
Where does that get us with Brownfield?
So that was my question. Like, how do you identify like for the brownfield there are no BR, right? So there will be only B. And this case we have B, but we should have a BR to access that B. Do you want to
Sorry, in a
distinguish?
brownfield there is a BAR. So can you?
No. I am talking about in brownfield. There won't be any, as per current approach, there won't be any BR, right? Like, it will be
Right,
a
right.
B on.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to distinguish, like considering that from user point of view, they are trying to use existing B, right? Or something like that. Like the B was already there, and uh, the we removed the BR because of the retain policy. The B is still there, right? So it's like a brownfield case if you think in that way.
Okay, so yeah, that's true. So yeah, we're saying we can let a BR take ownership of that B by simply binding to it.
Right, but someone has to make the B if it's a brownfield one. That's the
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah.
You can't just create a BR that points to nothing and let the cozy provisioner do its thing.
Right. So the B already has to exist, and then the BR has to be created to bind to it. Is
I
that
mean,
Mhm.
that's totally workable. We
Mhm.
could just have to say that that's the plan for brownfield is,
Mhm.
you have to do this legwork, and
Yeah.
then one namespace will end up owning it, and if multiple namespaces need to have access to it, they'll have to do the cross namespace sharing thing, whatever that looks like.
Mhm. Makes sense. All right. So it seems like so far, I mean, we haven't really discussed it enough, but so far it seems workable. Um, let's keep going. Um, okay. So we just talked about what we call static brownfield, and we know this works for greenfield, obviously, and we also know with reference policy it's going to work for buckets created in other namespaces. Um, Is there any other condition we should be looking at? Any other case we should be looking at? All right. Seems like nothing. Yeah, it seems like nothing on this regard. Nothing else left on this regard. I mean, again, I still think it's a little too quick to go all in on this, but um, um, for now, I think it looks more or less good enough. If any other questions come up, or if you feel like there are any other inconsistencies or issues with this approach, um, you know, bring it up, please. We want to make sure that this will work for all of us. Yeah. All right. So the next thing that he mentioned was, let me just share my screen and just show you. So let me, so cross NS, yeah, cross NS is what we talked about. Yeah, okay, so the other thing was flattening BARs and BA. I think he mentioned it in the issue as well. Let me open up here. Right at the bottom. So he was mentioning that why do we need both BAR and BA? Like with buckets, it's more clear, but why do we need a BAR and a BA?
I think it's because the BAR represents the user's intent to have access, and the BA represents a physical thing that gets the credential that gets minted by the grant access CSIRP or COSI RPC.
But isn't one of them transparent to the user? Like, why do we need it to be a thing, like a resource?
I'm thinking. I think it's just because we've been following this pattern of a namespace object bound to non-namespace object.
Yeah. Yeah, I was also wondering if it is just an artifact of how we evolved, and we just never questioned it after we got here.
Well, the thing is that there are advantages to this, and we keep forgetting what they are.
Yeah.
I'm failing to remember them at the moment.
I'm trying to think too, Ben.
Mhm.
I mean, part of it is you can put sensitive information in the BA, and it's not necessarily readable by end users. Anything you put in the BAR is, of course, going to be visible to them.
And
So
we're using secrets anyways.
where are the secrets? Secrets have to be in a namespace.
I see.
They can't be non-namespaced.
Sid, was Tim saying,
No, but it doesn't matter. Go ahead, Jeff.
was Tim suggesting that he said flatten them. So he was saying the BA could be maybe the BA doesn't need to exist at all. We only need a BAR, or
Yeah.
was he the
Yeah.
user just creates a BA?
No, he mentioned that, why do we need a BA as well? Why can't we just do with a BAR?
Well, I believe one reason, but we are reducing this, we're lessening this requirement. But originally, we wanted the namespace where the driver code runs to have no
Right.
access to user namespaces,
Right.
only access to cluster scoped resources. So that was a B and a BA. But over time, we are weakening that stance, and we are saying, Sid, you and I talked about this, that the driver's namespace could actually have get access, read access across the whole cluster. They could read secrets.
Sorry, just write access, not read access.
Write access, yes.
You would need write access to update BARs if there's no BA.
No, just to write
They
secrets.
need write access to they need to read a BAR and for granting and revoking. They need to read a BAR and they need to write a BAR and they need to write a secret. So we keep weakening this original concept that drivers were untrusted in the cluster, and that we wanted to minimize the impact a rogue driver could have.
So drivers are still untrusted. It's Cozy that has write access for secrets and read write on
Yeah,
BAR.
we trust the sidecar, but the driver is in a namespace with RBAC rules that could allow it access across the whole cluster now.
Yeah.
Going down this path.
I mean, so
Well,
talking
hold
about
on. I thought we split the responsibilities between some central controller and then the driver when it's sidecars. And if the central controller was doing its job, or if it was structured like, for example, the snapshot controller, then the sidecar wouldn't need access to the namespaced resources. It would only need access to the non-namespaced resources.
Right. And that's what our original, that's what the KEP was a month ago, with that wall.
Why did we tear down that wall?
Because the secrets were a problem. So the secret that
no. So that's not why we tore it down because the architecture changed. So we were using a CSI node adapter. So this wasn't a month ago. It was like the last review cycle. We were using the CSI node adapter to hold the pod back from starting, and mount the bucket info.json file. But after the review, we all talked about it, and that was one of the comments as to why we needed a secret, why we needed a CSI driver when we could just do with a secret. And so when we went to the simpler secret architecture, the CSI node adapter, originally, which could only, we said the node adapter would be able to get secrets from only one namespace. It didn't matter anymore because it doesn't exist anymore. So in the current architecture, you have to be able to create a secret in the same namespace as the pod, otherwise you wouldn't be able to use it. So that's how we ended up with Cozy sidecar controller requiring write access for secrets. Now it still can't read secrets; it can write them.
Yeah, but that's what I was saying. The node adapter was the insulation there between the namespace of the driver and the user's namespace. The node adapter is trusted. It's Cozy. It's part of Cozy. So we trust it. All we're not trusting is a driver written by a vendor or someone outside of Cozy, right? And that driver's in the same namespace as the sidecar typically. And so we didn't want that namespace to have privileges. If you
and the driver could have modified the sidecar in principle, right? You never know what they've done.
Well, they could modify the sidecar.
I mean, yeah. Talking about it that way, I mean, if they're malicious, they're malicious. I mean, the Cozy will not, go out of its way to make sure the user is not a bad actor. All we're saying is if you're running Cozy, if you're using a proper shipped image, you verify the SHA-SUM and everything, then you can expect good behavior.
Well, usually the concern, like when CSI, the concern is the vendor did their best to not do anything bad in their driver, but they had a security hole in their driver, and the malicious attacker exploits the security hole in the driver and gains control of the process in which the CSI driver is running. And from there, they launch an attack on the rest of the cluster using the privileges that the driver has. So usually that's the threat model, right?
Yeah, just a quick add on that concept, because I'm a little bit confused where we're going.
Yeah,
is that in CSI, excuse me, the drivers don't even know that they're in Kubernetes. Exactly. All they have is a gRPC endpoint.
Right.
So they're completely right.
It's the same with Cozy.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering, are we trying to engineer something that is not necessary? It just seems like.
Yeah. But the driver has to run inside a pod that has certain RBAC permissions.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't have to.
Yeah.
It could be on the host. It doesn't. That's
it can be over the network. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but the sidecars need certain permissions.
That's true, and I'm just trying to say, are we trying to solve a problem that CSI also has, and they haven't solved it?
Well, no, everyone has that problem. I mean,
but the solution, such as it is in CSI, is to have minimum privileges for those sidecars. So that in
No,
case
it's
you have,
kubelet. The sidecar is kubelet. I mean, it has all the privileges. It's super admin
no,
square.
no, for this provisioners, for the controller sidecars, you're right. The node doesn't need anything because the kubelet just talks to it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure that we are solving the correct problem. That's all.
Yeah, thanks. No,
Yeah.
that's true. So you know, I don't think that's really an issue. The CSI provisioner still is pretty overpowered. And again, as long as a user is using so are you saying the extra power that we're giving it is the ability to write secrets? Because CSI provisioner also has the ability to read secrets, which I would think is far more dangerous.
Only if it's a CSI driver that relies on secrets. There's a huge number of them that don't, and then they
No,
don't have
but
the
still
permission.
the threat is there, right? Like the question is if it's a threat or not.
Yeah.
Right, but when you're installing the CSI driver, you as the deployer can ask yourself, what permissions is this driver requesting? And if
I mean,
you
this
don't
is
feel
the same
comfortable,
here. I mean, like here you just have write access to secrets. I'm not sure there is a real problem here.
well, the original question was, do we get any mileage out of having the non-namespaced object, the cluster scope object, in addition to the non-namespaced object from a
See,
security
once
point of view, right? That was what Jeff said.
yeah, once you mount the secret into the namespace or into a pod, it's as good as, you know, it's everyone in the namespace can read it and you know, save it and hold on to it.
Like Ben was saying, but now we're adding we're adding another resource. We're adding BAR. The namespace, the provisioner namespace needs access to the BAR now.
Sorry, the provisioner namespace needs access to.
If we
No, it
flag,
always needed access to the BAR, Jeff. That never.
no, that's not true. It needed access to the BA. I was trying to tell you my memory of why we had separate resources.
Oh, you're saying okay. So you're saying, okay, but that's okay, right? Like, is there a problem with that?
I don't know if it's a problem. I'm just saying, Ben asked what was the reason why we had some separation other than, you know, there's some tradition to it, perhaps.
I see.
And that's the reason that I recall.
Well, there's that reason, and then there's the fact that having that cluster scope object lets you store some information that the users can't see.
No,
So
but there's no point in that because the information is going to be revealed to all the users in the namespace regardless, as soon as it's mounted.
possibly.
So let me explain what to some of you who knew or who may not be able to follow what Jeff just mentioned, because it comes what he mentioned is based on a lot of context that we have. So in the previous architect or the way we were building Cozy, the way we had architected Cozy originally, we had two symmetric resources. One was bucket request, another was bucket access request. And creation of either one of these would result in the creation of a cluster scope resource, a bucket corresponding to bucket request and bucket access corresponding to bucket access request. So the question Tim asked was, why do we need bucket access requests and bucket access? In case of buckets and bucket requests, it's clearer. But in case of bucket access requests and bucket access, that's not. The utility of having this, having two resources was not clear at all. And so we're discussing why originally we had this design. And one of the reasons that Jeff brought up was, and it's a good one, which was in the previous architecture, we were separating who, like which controllers had access to which resources and what the driver interacted with. So we have an architecture where the driver runs alongside one of our components called Cozy Sidecar. And the sidecar only had access to cluster scope resources, the bucket and bucket accesses. But if we were to flatten buckets and bucket accesses and bucket access requests into one and just end up with a namespace resource, say just bucket access request, then we would end up in a situation where the sidecar controller would need additional privileges to read a namespace resource, which is bucket access requests. So we're talking about whether that's a security concern or not. And so far, I mean, off the top of my head, I don't see it being a concern. But I, I think someone might bring up a threat that maybe I haven't thought of. So so it's open for discussion right now. Jeff, did I summarize that right?
Yes.
Okay. So just so everyone's following and everyone can contribute. Yeah, I don't see an issue with the sidecar controller or the pod where driver is running, which need not be the case. But let's say the pod where the driver is running. I don't see the problem with it having access to BARs, bucket access requests, because it's just a request for accessing a bucket, and driver already has privileges to access the bucket. I
It's
mean,
also going to need access to the associated secrets.
only to write it.
For sure. Like, where are the secrets going to be? Are they going to be in the user's namespace?
It has to be, otherwise you can't mount it into a pod, project it into a pod.
I'm just wondering if there's any idempotency concerns about when you're trying to do grant access and you don't know if you succeeded or not, and you're doing a retry, and you can't read the secret to know if it's valid or not. What are you going to do? You might just have to call.
Just override it. I mean, it's okay to override it, right?
Maybe, but where do you maintain the state for
In
the
bucket access request?
I'm just thinking for the sidecar that has to call grant access, if it's getting a call, or if it sees a BAR that's in a transitional state and it needs to, and you don't know if you previously called grant access on the cozy driver or not, because maybe the last time you called it, you were killed in the middle of the call. So you may or may something may or may not already exist, and now you're trying to make sure that you complete the operation. And you can't read the secret. And so now you're just flying blind and basically asking the cozy driver to mint that credential again.
I mean, you can tell if the secret already exists or not. And, for idempotency, we've always followed this model of passing in.
Yeah, I guess it just puts a requirement on the cozy driver that when granting access, you can never be told what the previous secret was. You just have to be told what the identifier of the secret is. And then you have to return the same secret every time.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a reasonable
Mhm.
requirement.
That's what we do today in CSI, no?
Mhm.
Probably. Yeah. I don't know. I haven't thought this through enough.
Yeah.
It uses volume ID. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say in Portworx, for example, we use secrets to authenticate the access of a volume. And the way we do
but those are user supplied secrets coming in. We never have secrets coming out. We never have a situation where
correct.
So
the storage system never puts a secret for the user.
Right.
That is correct.
So with Cozy, when you do a grant access, a secret comes out that we have to then persist for use later.
But the conversation about idempotency, I don't see that. I don't see it being any worse than where it was. I don't think there's the previously accepted way and now there's no difference really, because we were never passing in the existing secrets to the driver ever to make sure that it's not giving us, it doesn't give us something that is that's already there.
Yeah. I don't definitely see a problem. I know the idempotency is hard. And it's easy to get tripped up.
Yeah. Does anybody else do the write of a secret on an action? Any other project?
Maybe certificate controllers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, when they generate certificates, self-censored, probably put it in secrets.
Creation of a service account, right? Also.
Like the token, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we follow the same patterns, and then we can avoid any issues.
Yeah. No, that's good. It's important. It's best not to re-implement or create whole new ways of doing things if something that works already exists. So yeah, thank you. Okay, so I mean, talking about that so far, so what it seems like we're saying is if you just had a BAR and no BA, it should still work.
You
Okay.
might need more status fields on the BAR to know what state you're in. So
And
that
also pointer to the secret.
the what?
And also pointer to the secret
From the status or from the spec?
from the status. Oh, wait, from the spec. That was always the case though, right?
I don't know. I mean, these are the kinds, if you're going to collapse the two objects, you got to answer all those questions. What goes in the status? What goes in the spec?
No,
You know,
yeah, the secret name was always in the spec. So yeah, that'll remain as is. We'll just need a condition saying that access granted set to true.
but it
It
was in the spec of the BA, not the BAR, right?
was in the spec of the BAR.
It was.
Yeah.
I think if you put it in the spec, then you, as a user, are telling, I have this secret. But if you put it as a status, it's something that
So
Cozy owns, right?
yeah, so the reason to, so we're calling it credential secret, or minted credential secret. The reason we give the name up front is so that you can start a pod pointing to that secret. It won't start up until that secret's available. Otherwise, you're making it imperative where you're waiting for a secret by some name to get generated before you can start a pod, and it's not imperative. It's not declarative anymore. To keep declarative nature. Mhm.
It would be declarative if the controller that was consuming it knew how to wait for the secret to show up.
Well, the pod isn't going to wait though, right?
Well, the pod only points to the BAR.
Pod points to the secret directly.
I thought that it, well, in some previous version, it pointed to the BAR, and I thought that in.
And we had a CSI driver. Yeah, we got rid of the CSI driver.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah,
I see.
yeah.
But that's kind of strange then, because
What is?
I mean, not having any support on the kubelet side to plumb things through automatically for you, because I thought that from an API perspective, the pod was supposed to refer to the BAR, and then there was a CSI driver as a stopgap mechanism, but the point was kubelet eventually was going to directly implement that API.
Yeah. That is still the plan. That is absolutely still the plan. It's just the CSI driver need not be the stopgap. The stopgap is secrets now.
Right, but once you have kubelet doing this work for you, it only needs to know about the BAR, and it can in principle not start the pod until the secret's available by just watching the BAR. So okay, so you don't want to pollute the API with some requirement that we want to take away later. No, you shouldn't have to specify a secret name.
But it's the same with volumes too. If you were using the BAR specified as a volume, it's going to be the same old thing. You have to get rid of it later. There's literally no difference in terms of the API as it concerns with pod spec.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, it's unfortunate that we can't get the pod part of the API right in the first version, because that's kind of the most important part.
It is. It really is. Yeah, but I think just in terms of just how the evolution or how what it takes to put something in the pod, it's probably best this way we're going.
Okay.
So Sid, if the CSI node adapter is no longer needed, does that also mean that node publish volume, unpublished volume calls aren't going to be made by the kubelet anymore?
Yeah.
Okay, and then that means Cozy can't respond to the workload terminating.
Yeah. So
we had design. I don't know if we had anything coded, but we did have design for teardown, for deletion,
using the finalizers.
The termination of the workload also triggered things. And if the workload wasn't terminated, you couldn't actually remove the bucket and because it was being used. So that we lose that as well now.
We don't lose that. So So it was Ben who was suggesting this. So the way we were doing it was by having a finalizer per pod on the BA, and maybe you just you were busy that day. I don't know. Maybe you attended. But what happened was um, he was showing us how updates are actually really expensive on the API. And if you're going to add a finalizer and then revoke them or remove them one by one as the pod goes away and comes back and all that, we're going to be really bombarding the API server or etcd. Um, and we discussed different ways in which you can do it. You can do it as a patch instead, or all these merge strategies and stuff. But in the end, what we ended up deciding was we're not going to use finalizers that way. We're not going to have a billion finalizers, one for each pod on the BA, or one for each BA on the B. Instead, we're going to have one finalizer where we maintain the state of the set of pods in memory, and keep them updated using the regular reconcile loop in Kubernetes, and make sure that because if you have
But the thing that removes that finalizer still needs to be able to determine if it's not used anymore.
yeah
and if you don't have the links from the pods, you have no idea.
If the pod goes away, you get the you get the event, so you would still be able to do it.
But how do you know a pod is using a bucket?
You read the pod spec.
I thought you said that it was just referring directly to the secret. Doesn't refer to the bucket anymore.
Yeah, but you read the pod spec, which refers to a secret that you know is a cozy created secret.
Oh, you depend on the knowledge that some secrets are special secrets.
Yeah, and so we're watching all pods then on a cluster now.
And secrets.
And all secrets. Which means that you have to be able to read all the secrets.
Well, if you're doing it from, sorry, go ahead.
That's less overhead than updating metadata with a finalizer map. Is that
well, the overhead is only on that one pod instead of on the common etcd server.
But we have to now handle pods being relaunched, deploy. There's
you
pod.
get them as delta events anyways. I mean, any controller that's listening on pods will get them.
Say that again.
Any controller that's listening on pods will deal with the same amount of overhead.
Agree.
Yeah.
But we originally, now I know maybe this has changed for a little bit, but originally we weren't having to watch pods.
Right. But when the issue with having a finalizer per pod was, bombarding the API server is definitely more risky than just having a pod that uses more resources. And really, more in this case is probably not too much. And worst case scenario, maybe if we really need to figure this out, we could think about sharding the pod name somehow, so that we have active type setups where one of the active workers deals with some of the pods and another one deals with another set of pods. That way we load balance the this thing. But we don't even need to go that far. We could just say there's one controller that just listens for pod events and then knows based on whatever the current state is if a B or a B BAR can be
We lost, you said.
Oh, I said if a B or a BAR can be deleted. Oh, in the sense that we can know just from the controller that's listening on pods, we can tell if a B or a BAR can be deleted. But like you said, if it's the sidecar controller that's doing this, and which I think will be the one doing it, it'll also need read access on secrets.
I think so too.
Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you won't be able to know if it's a special secret or not. It's a cozy secret or not.
Yeah, yeah, that's a tough one.
And that I think introduces more vulnerabilities than anything else. I think because that I see as a terrible design actually, because um, anyone could pretend to be a cozy secret and hold credentials from going away.
Yeah, I don't like it either initially, at least. It seems like a lot of work. It's tempting
No,
to want to add an annotation to the pod, but I'm not sure we would know how to. Then we're only looking at it.
I mean, eventually this will go away, right? Eventually it'll be a BAR field or something equivalent of that in the pod spec itself, and at that point we won't need this mechanism as a stopgap. Can we say this is okay?
Yeah, maybe so. Sid, is the endpoint information also in a secret or a config map, or is there some file?
It's all in the secret.
It's all in the secret. Okay.
Mhm.
And we didn't get an argument about having non-sensitive data in the secret. That was okay to put in.
Having what data?
Well, it's just in the past, there was an argument when way long ago, endpoint information was kept in a secret. And there was comments that said that was sort of an anti-pattern, that you shouldn't have non-sensitive data in a secret.
I mean, it's relevant data. It's
It's relevant, but it's not sensitive. So
let me put it this way. I mean, you want this data to exist together, and part of it is secret makes the whole thing a secret, right?
I understand that, and I'm not trying to raise a big flag here. I'm just sharing a comment in the past. I was just acknowledging that Tim didn't see that as an issue. That's all. I wanted to just get it in the recording that wasn't an issue, having mix of sensitive and non-sensitive in the same secret.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So the other thing was, all right. So I think it kind of looks okay, but just to reiterate, the one weird design choice we're making, and we're saying it's okay because it's temporary, is that is how we determine if a secret is a cozy secret. We can make that process solid, like go ahead. We would sign it.
I was suggesting
Mhm.
suggesting if you could add an annotation there. That's the simplest thing, but
Yeah, no, that would work for sure. That would definitely work. It's just if that was a long-term approach, I would think it's a terrible idea, because anyone could put any annotation on any secret, and then cozy would would be made to hold on to secrets that shouldn't be held back.
Can we
Right?
Typically,
define a new secret or something like that? So there are different type of secret, right? Opaque, TLS, and all those stuff. For cozy, can we
Yeah.
request for a new type of secret?
I would avoid creating new CRDs, but what do you mean by different types of secret? Like, is there a Kubernetes concept for different types of secret?
Yes.
Okay. I
Most
didn't know about.
is opaque. Like normally when you create secret, it will be opaque, but there are like TLS secret. So I think main difference is the type and how the data will look. So like that. I think there are a couple of secrets, like 5 or 6 secrets are the.
Okay, I'm just looking for a type secret struct. Okay, so this immutable, this data string data type. Okay, secret type is what you're talking about. 587. There's opaque, and then there's service account token, and that's it.
So I think there's in the Kubernetes there's documentation. Like if you go like.
Yeah, maybe you're
I
talking.
don't know.
Yeah, we can. If you find a link, could you please share it? Do you know? That would be good. All right, so yeah, just saying that compromise, saying that that design choice out loud so that we know what compromise we're making and why we're making them. Again, the reason we're saying it's okay is because it's a stopgap measure. This is not the long-term plan. I think someone shared it. Okay. What are the different kinds? Okay. Oh, these are based on annotations?
This is a property
yeah.
of the secret.
I see. Bootstrap token, data for TLS client. So I see. So you're saying we could add one more for Cozy.
Yeah, so it will be unique for Cozy, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. I mean, yeah, that might be easier to do than I can see this being defined in the API spec. Did I miss it? Oh, maybe they just don't start it with secret type. Oh, right. Because, okay, so this is secret type because they don't specify. Okay, so what would this become? Would this become a regular string or would this be of type secret type?
Secret type. As far as I remember. Yeah.
Just because it's following?
Oh, okay. This one. Sorry, I'm not sure. Sorry.
I see that secret type Docker config and then secret type Docker config JSON. Yeah, this is for the credential provider stuff. Basic auth. Okay. Okay, we can. I think that might be easier to do. To add a new secret type called storage.kdis.io or object storage.kdis.io / bucket credentials or something. All right. So Mauricio here and Tim as well. So it's a really important requirement for Google that we have service account based authentication. We have only 10 minutes, but I'll bring it up quickly because this is definitely something that both a bunch of people brought up, and I also concur that it's important. So this is service account based authentication. I remember we had a bunch of conversations about it, and Ben, I think you you know helped make this decision. But correct me if I'm wrong. We said we will punt service account for now, right? And what was the reason for it?
I don't think the intention was to punt on it. The intention was to get the basic one standardized. Like the issue is, for me, has always been the downward facing APIs. What does the pod consume and what can it expect to be there? And like I think we do need to figure out what service account token based authentication looks like, but we need to start from the pod's experience of that.
Can we just say that
Oh.
the service account has go ahead. Someone was saying something. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thanks. So as a user, there are two use cases depending on where my app is. If it's modernized, it could already be using a workload identity server. But if it's not, then it might be probably using some MBARs that might be mounted from the secret that Cozy is going to create. So yeah, those are the use cases. Now for service accounts, typically that is done by, it could be by my team or by some admin. I would ask that person to create a service account for me. I would then tell him the permissions that I need. So it could be bucket creation, bucket read, and so on. And under the hood, once my pod is set up to use a service account, internally, Kubernetes will talk with an in Google Cloud, there is a workload identity server. So every request that usually goes to the metadata server, it goes through this other thing. And this other thing understands the mapping that is already set up in the service account, and it understands that the pod is tied to one service account, and that the service account has some permissions, for example, bucket read, and then from the application, that's how we can get to a bucket. So yeah, those are the two use cases.
So yeah, thanks. So I think Ben's question was also about, along with that, was also about how someone would specify the service account name in the pod spec. Is that right, Ben? Like how?
Well, in particular, how would you write a workload that could deal with either, right? Because the whole point is a bucket should be a bucket, and you should be, I should be able to write a workload that says, you know, give it a cozy bucket and it will run, and then not care about how you supply the cozy bucket. And so
I think if you're talking from the application's perspective, is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yeah. For an application programmer who is going to be consuming cozy needs to know, like, what are all of the possible inputs he could get and what he's supposed to do with them.
Right. So for that, I thought about it, and you know, pretty much every SDK has multiple credential provider mechanisms. I think at least for the cloud ones, we would have to go at cozy as a credential provider, but we should, and they already have a order of precedence. So for instance IAM is considered more important, more higher order of, or more preferred as compared to environment variable based credential discovery. So we would have to do something like that.
Yeah, we just need to write down, like, if you're using some sort of service account that's sort of built in, then here's the flag that tells you, hey, there's no access key and no secret, go do something else. Right? As long as we write down what that flag is, and then someone has like a proof of concept that it can work, like, that's good enough for me.
Okay. Yeah, so I think that's what we should do. So instead of calling it even service account, Tim was calling it workload identity based authentication. And yeah, that's clearly what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, it's just, you know, if you normally are expecting an access key and a secret and you're not going to get it in those cases, you just need a reliable way to know that you're not going to get that and you're supposed to do the other thing.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, so I feel like we're in agreement about majority of the things. So can I go ahead and update the KEP to say we can get rid of the BAR, or sorry, the BA, and just have BAR, and then you know, kind of flush out that design. Maybe have you review it once, and then we can ping Tim again. Does that sound good? We're almost out of time. So Ben, Jeff, what do you all think? Everyone, really?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, I guess I would vote for that as well, Sid.
Okay. All right. Okay. So first, I'll write it down, and then I'll ping you all first. Then once we're all in agreement, let's go ping Tim. All right. That's it for today. There are a few other questions that weren't answered. Feel free to look at the KEP and provide answers to his questions directly if you think you know, if you want to do it. If not, you know, we'll go the route that we were just talking about. So
it's far better that you answer him rather than so many people answer.
Yeah, I think it's better too. Yeah. But it's an open discussion. That's where it's coming from. Go ahead.
Okay. I have been trying to follow what Cozy, what has been going on in Cozy. I started joining the meeting since last week, but it's kind of unfortunate that we don't keep notes. So again, today I tried to keep some notes about what we discussed. At least I got a couple of points. So I think it would be good to rely on notes in addition to the recording, because for me it's kind of hard to look at the recordings and see everything that was discussed, because for some points it's like we start a discussion and in the end there is no conclusion. So it would be great to write the conclusion at the end.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you. So could you maybe share a link to where the notes are being maintained? We can put that in our Slack channel and make sure everyone also knows about it.
Sure. It's in the it's already there. I opened the document and I added some notes to your document.
Oh,
it's already there in the it's in the header of Slack.
Yeah, it's pinned.
Oh yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, I see it. Appreciate it, Mauricio.
Yeah, sure.
All right. We're out of time. Is there anything else? All right. Okay. Let's talk next week. Before that, I'll update the cap and I'll ping you all.
Thank you, Sid.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.